Hey, let's not meet. I've been on a reading binge lately, and most of the stories remind me of one that happened to me a few years ago. I've posted it on No Sleep in a bit more detail. I'm trying to keep it relatively brief here. Before I realized this was an actual subreddit, so if you've seen it before, that's probably where. I'm also on mobile, so please forgive any spelling mistakes or weird formatting or anything of the like. Sorry for the wall of text. A few years ago, we went on a church trip to one of our favorite concerts that runs on New Year's Eve to celebrate the new year. Not only is it concerts, though, it has all kinds of other events and things to do besides music. Anyways, we all decided to go super last minute, and a lot of the hotels in the area were already fully booked. We ended up staying in a rinky-dink little roadside motel, about 30 minutes away from all of the events, pretty much in the middle of nowhere. The entire place was super sketchy, and it made me uncomfortable, but I felt like we could deal with it. We were separated, boys in a room, girls in a room, and then the chaperones. We get into the room, and the first thing we notice is a back door. What kind of hotel room has a back door? The chaperones staying next door insist that it's sealed shut, but still let us know if anyone knocks on it to not hesitate to let them know by knocking on the wall or whatever we deem necessary. No sooner than 5 minutes later, one of the guys comes to our room and, jealous of our back door, throws it open, proving that it wasn't sealed shut as we were told. We locked it ourselves and went about our business. Later that night, at around 11:30 or 12 maybe, we got back to our hotel. Our chaperones told us to lock the doors because there were men sitting outside drinking, very obviously drunk as they started catcalling us as we went to our room. I didn't think much of it, and slammed and locked the door. The young girls in our room decided it would be completely okay to always answer without looking first, because, well, why would they be knocking on our door if they didn't know us? Not okay, and I had to explain to all of them that you should always look to see who it was before opening the door. Late that night, I was woken up by an odd sound, almost like tapping. I sat up and glanced around the room before I realized that somebody was knocking on our door. I very quietly got out of bed, careful to move as silently as possible, and went to the door to check the peephole. I thought maybe the chaperones were doing some sort of weird late-night checkup. No sooner than I had glanced out, a hand slowly covered the peephole to hide two of the men that had been drinking outside earlier. My heart started racing. I slowly got back into bed, trying to stay quiet and calm as the knocking continued, only to see a shadow move out of the corner of my eye. I realized there was someone standing outside the back door as well, just barely visible through the blurry tinted window. One of the girls I was with woke up too, confused as she looked at me. I used my phone to explain the situation silently, and we both waited, terrified, as we watched the shadows through the windows. We hoped they would go away soon. At some point, we both managed to fall asleep again, but when I left the room the next morning, there was a paper on the ground. In very shaky, messy handwriting, it said, "Seeing your pretty eye was enough." I can still remember that note perfectly, even after I shredded it and flushed it down the toilet to avoid anyone finding out. I was young and stupid. Looking back now, I know 100% I should have went straight to a chaperone and told them what happened. It could have been a very dangerous situation. I'm extremely grateful that I had awoken, rather than one of the young girls who would have just opened the door without thinking, and also grateful that I like to triple check the doors to see if they were locked. At the time, it didn't seem like a big deal to me. Nothing came of it besides extreme paranoia for a while, but in all, The only long-term effects was a permanent bad feeling and fear of roadside motels. This happened almost 4 years ago, in the early hours of New Year's Day. For reference, I was 17 at the time, and in my senior year of high school. I'm a male, and I'm about 5'10", and weighed about 160 pounds at the time. I lived in the suburbs, and I was at a New Year's party being held by my friend at his house, which was about a 20-minute walk away from mine. It was about 1 in the morning, and I was about to leave with another friend of mine who lived on the same block as me. My friend who was hosting the party asked if we would like a ride home. In hindsight, we probably should have accepted his offer, but our neighborhood was very safe, and we figured that with the two of us walking together, no one would ever bother us. We also thought that there were probably other people at the party who definitely needed a ride home more than we did. We said our goodbyes to everyone and began our walk home. The road was predictably empty, with no one but us walking along the sidewalk, maybe the occasional car passing by. It was pretty well lit though, so we weren't walking in total darkness or anything. My friend wanted to pick up a pack of cigarettes on the way home, so we stopped off at a gas station along the way. When we got to the gas station, it was nearly empty, with only a woman at a pump filling up her car with gas, and a guy posted up in front of the store on his phone. We went inside, and my friend picked up their pack of cigarettes. We walked out of the store, and my friend immediately lights a cigarette. We reach the sidewalk, and we hear someone behind us yell, "Hey, wait!" We looked behind us to see the guy who was in front of the store quickly walking toward us. He looked to be in his early to mid-20s. He was probably about 5'8", and maybe 140 pounds from the looks of him. He approached us and asked if he could get a light. My friend and I didn't think much of it, and he lit the guy's cigarette. The man thanked him, and my friend told him that he was welcome. We began to walk away, when the man continued to follow us, asking where we were going. We told him we were headed on our way home, and asked him where he was off to. He said all his friends were at a party, and he was heading back over there, as he had left to get some fresh air for a bit. He asked us if we wanted to come to the party with him. This is officially the point where red flags started going off with this guy. Why the hell would a guy in his 20s ask 2 teenage boys if they wanted to go to a party with him? We told him bluntly that we didn't even know who he was, nor did we know anyone at the party he was talking about, so we definitely weren't going. He started laughing and kept saying something like we were cool guys to party with. He told us we needed to let loose a little. My friend and I told him we were 18 and 17 respectively, to see if maybe that would get him to leave us alone. He chuckled and told us that age didn't matter to him, and that he had a brother who was 16 that partied with him and his friends all the time. Jesus Christ, can this guy take a hint? I thought to myself. We were a little less than 10 minutes away from our houses, and we didn't want this creep following us all the way there. I decided to tell him firmly, "Dude, we're not going anywhere with you. Quit following us and fuck off." He got livid and started screaming at us for being unfriendly, inconsiderate assholes, that he was just trying to be nice. He started throwing racial slurs at my friend, probably worth mentioning that I'm white and my friend is black. My friend yells at him to get away from him before he cracks him in the face, and the guy proceeded to run away from us. My friend and I looked at each other in complete disgust over what happened, and spent the next 5 minutes walking and talking about that creepy man. We both agreed that he was probably drunk or high from a New Year's party. Next thing we know, we hear a car behind us, and proceed to slow down to match our pace. We see the windows roll down, which revealed the guy that we had seen just a few minutes earlier, with who we presumed to be 2 of his friends. One was a man who was probably the same age, and a woman in the back seat who had to have been in her mid-30s. The guy tells us that we got off on the wrong foot, and asks us once again to join them at the party. My friend and I looked at each other, and I whispered to him that we really needed to get away from them. My friend tells them we're not going with them, and to just leave us alone already. The guy was silent for a few seconds before he said, "You're coming with us, one way or another." They pull over and quickly start to get out of the car, which caused my friend and I to immediately go into flight mode. We turned right on a side block, and my friend yelled, "Run to the park, we'll lose him in there." We looked behind us, and to our horror, all three of them were gunning right for us. We ran into the park, and we once again looked behind us. They were getting even closer. We ran into the dark, thick patch of trees that covered a good portion of the west side of the park, hoping to hide or evade them. I was panicking at this point, because I couldn't see a damn thing, and I was worried that my friend and I would trip over something and get captured by one of these sick freaks. Who knows what they wanted to do with us? We heard one of them trip and fall behind us, yelling out a quick, "Fuck!" And luckily we see the light again. We made it to another path in the park, and we made a left onto that path. We heard yelling behind us, and one of the men saying that they lost us. The woman yelled at them to split up and search around the park for us. We both bolted towards the bathrooms, which were thankfully open still. We hid inside. We took a minute to catch our breath, as our lungs were practically burning out at that point. We should have called the cops and just hid until they got there, but at the time we were so focused on getting the hell away from these crazy people that we decided to try and make our way to the nearest exit out of the park and make a run for my house. We waited for about 2 minutes when we bolted out of the bathroom and toward the park exit. Shortly before we exited the park, we heard one of the guys' yells behind us that he had found us and we were getting away. We looked behind us to see the man in the distance starting to chase after us once again. We both ran until we reached my house, and I quickly opened the door, ran inside and locked it. We went into my living room and collapsed on the couch. We both sat there silently, trying to regain our energy and calm down after what had just happened, hoping they didn't see where we ran to. I looked out the window several times over the course of 10 minutes, but thankfully they never showed up again. We talked about it, and we were glad that we were both okay, and that nothing bad had happened to either of us. We were trying to figure out what they had wanted with us. Did they want to kill us, rob us, have sex with us? God only knows. My friend hung around for another half hour before he insisted on heading home. He left, and then I went to bed. I keep thinking about what had happened, and pondered on what would have happened if they caught me. Even as I'm typing this, I still have those thoughts. I eventually fell asleep, and I woke up and told my parents what had happened. They were thankful that my friend and I were okay, but they were upset with us that we chose to walk home, and should have accepted the lift from my other friend, or even called either of them and they would have picked us up. Regardless, we filed a police report, and I gave them all of the information I could. Unfortunately, we never heard anything about it again. I wonder sometimes what the hell they've been doing ever since. I really hope they never harmed another person after that. I can't express enough how thankful I am that we managed to get away from those freaks, and to this day, this incident is still the scariest thing that has ever happened to me in my life. This incident definitely made me more wary of my surroundings, and I try my best to avoid situations where I need to walk late at night, whether I'm by myself or not. I attended what was expected to be a super fun party in 2015 at a close friend's home. I expected to be awake until dawn, so I made sure to eat a big dinner and arrived late to the party at around 11 p.m. with 2 of my best friends. We were a pretty tight-knit social group, and despite the party being a combination house show with several bands playing, I knew virtually all of the 60 or so people who were already there when I arrived. Among friends and acquaintances, everyone was celebrating, drinking, and having a great time. I had planned to meet up with some other friends at around 2 a.m. when they were done bartending a public event. I was drinking socially, but in moderation. I'm no stranger to the sauce, and I have a healthy tolerance. By midnight, the party had grown to at least 100 people, and by this time there were people drifting in from neighboring parties and the surrounding university area, despite attempts to limit attendees to people we all actually knew. I opened my third beer at 1 a.m., continued taking photos, snaps, and messaging other friends who weren't there. Around 1:30 a.m., I started to feel really drunk. I was thinking that perhaps I was just overwhelmed by the constant activity all around me. I stepped into the mostly empty living room for a breather and to message my friend. I sent her a message inviting her to the party, as we'd planned on meeting up. As I finished my message, I felt someone come up behind me. He pressed his body against me as he grabbed my hip. As I straightened up, I could feel him bending down slightly to whisper in my ear. But it wasn't a whisper. He clearly said to me, "In a few minutes you aren't going to remember anything, and then I'm gonna rape the shit out of you." I froze. It hit me. I wasn't feeling really drunk. The confusion I had attributed to social anxiety or the large crowd. I was experiencing it because I had been drugged. I knew I had only moments to prevent the inevitable. I ran from him best as I could and didn't turn around. I went and retrieved my purse and jacket and started calling the 2 people I meant to meet up with at 2 a.m. I was so out of it at this point I was having a hard time communicating what was even happening. I started crying, moving throughout the house, trying to find someone I could explain it to. I was too disoriented. Thankfully, friend number 1 was able to leave from bartending early and came to get me. He called me immediately, and as I ran outside, the creepy man literally chased me out. I got to my friend's car, and as I started to black out, he said the creepy guy was trying to wave him down, shouting to him that he, the creepy guy, was my friend and was going to take me home. Friend number 1 told me I just kept saying, "Drive, drive." He took me home where we met up with friend number 2 who was bartending the event. At 2:30 a.m. I lost consciousness and remained unconscious for 5.5 hours. They were shaking me, doing everything trying to get some kind of reaction. Nothing. I didn't respond in any way. They sat up with me throughout the night to make sure that I would be okay. Around 7 a.m. I somehow managed to get up and climb into my bed. At 9 a.m. I awoke with a start and had no idea where I was. I was so relieved to discover I was safely at home. I was high for a total of 20 hours and didn't feel normal again for several days. I don't think I'll ever know who drugged me. I only have a vague description to work from. This happened on New Year's Eve 2 years ago. My best friends and I were going to my friend's house to celebrate. My friend lives in what many would consider the boonies. After taking an exit off the interstate, you reach a small city, make a left turn, travel through a smaller town, and then get onto a highway for a few miles before exiting onto a county road. This county road goes on for miles, roughly 30 minutes of driving, before you finally reach her house, which is at the end of this dead-end country road. Now that I've given an idea of the setting, I'll explain what happened. I was riding in the passenger seat with my friend driving. 2 of my other friends were in the car in front of us. Everything was normal at first, until we exited onto the highway I mentioned earlier. It was late, and there weren't many cars out, but a truck had started following us. I didn't think anything of it until the truck also got off the highway and followed us down the same country road. I didn't think anything of it until the truck also got off the highway and followed us down the same county road. This road has many different turnoffs to other roads and residential areas before you reach the dead end. Additionally, it's deep in the woods and has no streetlights at all. We drive further down the road. I begin to become uneasy as we go further down because the truck still hasn't turned down our side road. I mentioned this to my friend, but she said that they probably just lived further down the road. We kept driving, and the truck starts flashing their brights on and off at us and riding the back of our car unnecessarily close. We assumed this was to trick us into thinking something was wrong and pulling over, which we obviously didn't do. I started freaking out and called our friends in front of us to let them know. They basically brushed it off, said we were overreacting. I hope that was the case, but what happened next amped my fear and anxiety up to 100%. I looked back with a sigh of relief and told my friend that the truck must have turned off onto a different road because all the lights were gone. Upon closer inspection, however, in the side mirror, I could make out the silhouette of the truck. It was still behind us. They had just turned all their lights completely off. There was no logical reason why someone would do this on a dark and winding country road. At this point, I was honestly thinking we might die. I called my friends in front of us again and told them that the truck had now turned their lights off. We were deep in the woods, and at this point, cell reception was abysmal. I had to call them several times before they even understood what I was saying. Luckily, my friend whose house we were going to exhibited some quick thinking and told us to follow her. When we rounded a corner, we made a sharp right turn down a long circle drive and shut our lights off. The truck didn't see us round the corner and kept driving down the road instead. We ended up waiting a few minutes after that and saw the truck come back from the other direction before we felt safe enough to go to the house. When I was younger, each summer and almost every New Year, my family would pack the car and go on a road trip to visit my family in Mexico. We never had any problems until one particular trip when I was 8. Like every road trip before, we left our home in North Texas at around 6 p.m. in order to reach our destination the next morning. So, around 2 a.m., we crossed into Mexico, and that's when things got weird. When you're on the only stretch of freeway in the middle of the desert, you don't tend to freak out about having the same car behind you for miles. It was practically pitch black outside our car windows, the only visible shapes being the dotted stars and eerie silhouettes of the cacti. We'd been in Mexico for about an hour and still had a few more to drive. I remember sleeping but still being semi-conscious of what was around me because I didn't have the skill to really fall asleep in a car. So when my mother suddenly spoke my dad's name, I heard her clearly. "Miguel, that car is behind us. It's been behind us since we left Laredo." My dad peeked at the car and shrugged off my mother's tension. A lot of cars use this road. He's probably going to Reynosa or some other city. And he left it at that. Despite his sureness, my mom kept a wary eye on the car behind us. By this time, my siblings and I were hyper-aware of the car and entertained ourselves by watching the car through the gaps in the luggage that blocked the rear window. We got tired pretty quick. "He's getting closer," my mother noted, and we turned to watch as the car inched closer and closer to ours. "He's too close, Miguel." And she was right. By this time, the car was practically pressed against the rear of ours, and on a lonely stretch of highway in the middle of nowhere, with another few hours until daylight. It was downright scary. We couldn't do much. My dad didn't slow down. didn't stop, and he didn't speed away either. He just continued to drive, and the car followed. The next 30 minutes were the most tense we had ever experienced. The car would ease off sometimes, only to press its blinding headlights against our rear once more, like he knew he was freaking us out and enjoying it. It was during one of the periods that the car had pulled away that my mom spotted a police car up ahead parked on the side of the road. She didn't miss a beat. "Pull over, right in front of the police. Pull over right now." And he did. The car kept driving. I wonder how confused the policeman must have been as he watched my dad park our car right in front of him. The policeman came over right away and asked us what was wrong. My mother urgently told him everything. The car, the way it followed us and taunted us. The policeman took her claims seriously right away and told us of how people were victimized and had their cars stolen on these empty highways by thugs and criminals. He offered to drive behind us for a while to help us feel safe. We drove off with the police cruiser behind us, relieved, until about 10 minutes later, when we saw something that confirmed the policeman's words and my mother's worst fears. 10 minutes later, on the road, we saw the car pulled over to the side, waiting. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. As always, be sure to let me know what you guys think, and please feel free to like, comment, or subscribe if you feel so inclined. I know some people have also had some problems about videos not appearing in their sub box, so please make sure to hit that little bell if you guys want to always be notified of when my next video comes out. As always, links to all of my social media will be in the description of the video below. You can find links to my Twitter, Gmail, Twitch, and Facebook accounts. So if you guys ever want to talk to me, just go ahead and shoot me a message on any of those, and I'll try to respond to your message as soon as possible. I'm also going to start trying to stream on Twitch a little bit more, so if you guys have notifications on there, you'll be notified right away when I go live. I might also try to do some on YouTube, but I haven't decided yet. I'm still kind of trying to decide what kind of streams I want to do. Anyways, if you guys have a story you would like to send in, or if you have a story you would like to suggest that I read, go ahead and send me a message on any of those links in the description below. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include the title, how you would like to be credited, and any genres that the story might have, if it does have one. If you guys are curious about the music used in this video, go ahead and take a look in the description below as well. I always put all of the music in the order in which it appears in the video, and I also have links to the artists as well. Last but not least, I also have a Patreon if you guys feel like you want to contribute to the channel a little bit. But of course, as always, it is never required, and you will never have to pay for watching any of my videos. So that's just something you do if you feel like it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please be sure to leave your feedback in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you very much.